In this installment of the Boost Numbers podcast, we'll learn about live human interaction, how it's developed over time, how it's changed with all the technology available today, and the need to reconnect people one cup of coffee at a time. Meet Michael Orosz-Fagen, co-founder of Mesh, and how he and his co-founders are working to reconnect people live in coffee shops all over the country. Enjoy the episode. Today, we'll be talking with Michael Orosz-Fagen, who is a co-founder for Mesh, and I am fired up about this particular app. The bit I know about it is kind of rebuilding human connections one cup of coffee at a time, and that struck me because it's a cool line, helping folks meet each other. But there's also, I'd love to talk a little bit about this later. There was a sense of almost like a loss, like something was lost and we have to rebuild it. So we'll hold that one for later, but that's why I'm very excited. I think it's a cool social impact. So Michael is the co-founder, and I would say probably a social impact kind of person, and we'll learn about that, why I say that later. But Michael, if you don't mind, could you introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about Mesh?
Yes, thanks for having me on here, Bill. Mesh is a platform that really aims to bridge the gap between all the digital tools that we have and maybe some of the disconnect that we feel in society. So I'm Michael. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, went to St. Louis University, and it was there where the idea kind of started to form. I met two other guys, Stuart and Isak, and together we kind of started to bring Mesh together into something. So it started out with this idea. I was sitting in my dorm dining hall, and I had this thought of man, I love meeting new people, but I hate bothering them when I first say hello. You go up to someone, you're like, you seem like a cool person, but I don't know if you're also in the same space where you like meeting new people. And from there, I was like, well, what if you could communicate? What if you had little placards? You're name that's just cheesy. So I put this idea down. Eventually, I was sitting eating, I think it was lunch at the time, and just this idea was spiraling in my head. And eventually, I kind of came up with an app that says you want to eat a meal with someone random. So I thought that having some kind of vehicle or something that you can do when you meet someone would be kind of fun. And then if you have a platform or something like that, I just put that in my ideas list on my notes page on my iPhone. Super simple. And it sat there for about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. I totally forgot about it. And then one random night, Stuart, one of the other co-founders, he and I were just going through our notes, just what are the things that we're thinking about? What are the ideas? I put a lot of, it's been 4 years, 5 years since then, over 800 different separate notes. I just write all my thoughts in there. My entire life lives on there, that in my notebook. And he's like, whoa, that's actually a really cool idea. He's a computer science major, and he's like, I could build that. I was like, wait, what? You build things? This was probably 2022, 2021. I think it was April of 2022, if my memory serves me right. And so building things was kind of still not as fast as it is right now. And from there, we've spent the last 3 years thinking on it, iterating it. In college, we kind of did a bunch of testing, roped all our friends in it, classic stuff like that. And now we're to the point where we're in 7 cities, 8,000 people signed up, and we have people meeting every single week across the country, coffee shops. It's groups of 4. So originally it was just a meal with someone random, and we're like, nah, there's a lot of issues with that. So we iterated and eventually came to this idea of kind of like a coffee social hour. And it's really cool. You show up at a coffee shop and there's usually 20 to 30 other people there specifically for Mesh, and then we create a group of 4 for you that you're going to go. So it gets over that whole who am I going to bother and everything. We're telling you, you open up the app or whatever you're using, and you see the other 3 people. We create a group chat for you, trying to make it as simple and straightforward as possible to meet people.
That's really cool. There's a couple of concepts in there that I'd like to dive in a little deeper, kind of how you arrived at it, the small group, for example. And when you said, you want to meet people, you might be, a type A or really social and gregarious type person, and it doesn't bother you to kind of introduce yourself to folks. But that seems it's different now. Even the app, I've noticed folks that the minute they meet someone in whatever format will kind of instantly check them out online,
Mm-hmm.
go out and see who they are, which I think is smart, very interesting, good tool. But I personally don't do that. I wasn't in the habit of doing that for years and years until all these tools came around from where I come from. And, to walk up to someone while they're eating or whatever, you're like, I don't want to interrupt them. I think there's also an added barrier because folks want to kind of get to know someone online a little bit? Like, do they even have an account? Does anyone follow them? Are they on Instagram? These kind of things. And I wonder your perspective. Does that make it a little tougher to meet someone today? I noticed in your story, you're like it was hard to meet people, and how do you do that, which led to the creation of this. But I'm just curious your view on it's tough enough to do it anyway to a stranger, but in today's world, it seems like there's even a little bit more of a wall, defensive wall that's been built up because everyone's sectioned off with their kind of own little social groups.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of dynamics there. I think part of it, is we've seen a shift in society and cultural for a variety of reasons. I think one of the things I would really point out is that this like cultural mind shift of I don't know what the other person's thinking, and I don't want to. I use the word bother, or like inflict, or and I think there's something really there that if I knew the other person in front of me, I think you had a really good point of like, if I could like look at who they are and understand who they are
Hmm.
digitally, then I would. And I think for me, I think you lose some of the magic of meeting someone for the first time.
Hmm.
It was actually something I started doing in college. There's like, I think my generation especially, like when you meet someone, especially maybe if you're looking for like a significant other, you do all this research and like everything about them, and it's like, what do you have to learn? And like
Right.
there's definitely something, there's like benefits to that, but I think that there's
Hmm.
definitely a space that's still needed for that magic of meeting someone for the first time and just getting to know them little bit by little bit. And so we're just trying to provide a space, an area where that can come naturally, and other people are kind of willing to have a similar mindset with that. And here's the thing, what we found, because we had this huge hypothesis that like people would even want to do that. I don't know how many, and it's been really, really amazing to see that that's a pretty ubiquitous thing across humanity, across the country. Hopefully soon we'll see this across the world. There's a few other companies that are doing similar things to us around the world.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people are seeing this as like there's something worth in culture and society in just being friendly, being willing to smile at the stranger, encounter someone in maybe a random sense, and it actually makes your life better. And as scary as it can be, there's ways that you can do to counteract that scariness or the randomness. And we're trying to do that with Mesh, and just maybe upgrade a little bit the way we connect using the tools that has been a part of society for the last 10, 20,000 years of human history, but with some different added twists that technology has allowed us to, and making it a little smoother.
There's the art of small talk. Some folks are naturally good at it, but it was a bit more of a requirement. There's this art of the small talk, and just how do you get to know someone? As you mentioned, you can check them out digitally and get to know who they are. But I think there's a couple of, as you mentioned, there's tons of upside to that. You do get to know if someone's, being truthful and kind of open in their profiles and what they're putting out there. You get a sense of who they are and maybe learn a few facts. But that's sort of what you had to be able to extract in a live environment quickly in a brief conversation. And there's also just that, as you mentioned, the tools, the human tools that have been around forever. That's part of who we are, is to be able to talk to someone live, get an understanding of who they are, all the nonverbal stuff. And I'm not a doctor or a, PhD in this area, but those are just human traits. They get lost if you're kind of just relying on, hey, I'll check them out digitally. I don't know. They're a little, let's move on. Part of it is that human interaction. So you're kind of really enabling that. You're kind of saying, okay, we're going to use a tool to get there. Where are we going? It needs to be in a setting that's, safe, comfortable. There's considerations to these tools and meeting up, but we're going to put you in a small group and you're going to, kind of have to get to know each other live. I love that. The small group, share with us a few thoughts around kind of getting to the group of four. How did that come about?
Yeah, because the original idea was just eat a meal with someone random. It was one on one. And when Stuart first saw that, his mind started spinning. I give the kudos to him of immediately thinking, yeah, how do we design it intrinsically to be safe? How do we design it intrinsically
Hmm.
just to have this group dynamic? There's something, it's like, okay, what's the number? So we came to four because a couple different reasons. One, it's just like statistically, it's like very, like it's improbable that you would have like a group that would just be unsafe. We're pulling
Yeah.
random people. You're in
Yeah.
public. So like all these, just this dynamic, I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's much better than I think any other alternatives that we run into in normal society. Secondly, four allows for people to not show up. Someone doesn't show up, it's only three people. Still not that awkward, not a one-on-one situation. That's not the end of the world, obviously, but it just means that's less likely for that to happen. And then we found that four is a really balanced number. We've tried, sometimes we have groups of five and that happens, it's great. But 4, there's just something that happens. I don't know why, but the conversation's really balanced. Usually one person doesn't control the conversation. You can listen easily. It's not like this like 4 people listening, one person talking. It's like, no, it's like you just kind of like go around and share. It's a really fun dynamic. So all those kind of happened in our testing phases when we were just like doing this with friends and whatnot in college. Some of it was just hypothesis that we just tested, and some of it was like, oh, what if we change this? And we came to it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Now, you mentioned there might be other groups in that setting. Maybe you partner with, I notice you go through some partnerships with coffee shops. Makes perfect sense. It's a way to bring folks into their business and achieve the goals that you guys are after. Do they know? Is it something I could say, hey, I'm meeting this group, but does the app tell me like there's 2 or 3 others there, or share that information? Because then you might, if you're really hitting it off as a group of 4, you might say, hey, let's go meet, 4 other people.
Yeah, so that's something that we have paywalled. So if you so Mesh is free to
Gotcha.
use, so you can sign up, go get your invite. But there's a few things we have paywalled. Um and one of those is that you don't know what other groups are unless you're paying
Gotcha.
for either
Yep.
one at a time or whatever. So but yeah, no, that's 100% because it's kind of fun to see like what are the other groups. It gives more
Yeah.
greater networking, or just exposure to new people as well.
You're someone that has social impact. Just the concept of saying, look, let's meet each other live. Well, I'm going to try to enable that as a great endeavor. It's just good for the people that participate. It's good for all of us that folks are embracing it, and that with the numbers you shared, that's encouraging, because it's easy to get caught up in all the noise around, particularly like AI and stuff, and we're all just going to be attached to screens, and we're doomed. It's like, no, there's a need and obviously a desire for folks to do this. So tell me a little bit about how you grow. How you start out, you pilot it, with your friends, and you're in college, and you kind of find some folks to use it. How's that journey started? Where is it at today? And then how do you plan to kind of, push this thing out further?
Yeah, that's the fundamental question is growth. It's especially now it's just relatively easy to build something, but selling,
Hmm.
growing,
Yep.
marketing, all those different things and they're different segments have been a massive journey for us. It's not been easy. We've just like strung out every single one of those 8,000 people of just like how do we get people? Yeah, to start out, it really did start with friends and family. Like the
Hmm.
cliches and every part of our journey were huge. Friends and family. And one of the first things we did, this was kind of pre-app. We kind of have like our like beta, and that was like pretty rough. And then we took like a break and looked back what we did wrong, and we launched our alpha in 2024 of April, so last year of April. In that beta phase, we just tried everything. It was posting random videos. We went out to our campus at St. Louis University and tried to just cold sell people and gave them cookies to download the app. Um,
Yep.
Relatively successful. Like so, okay, I think we gave out 100 cookies and we got 70 people to download the app, or rough numbers like that. Um, it was it was great learning for us, but it really was ineffective in many ways. It taught us a lot of things on like what works and doesn't work, and it got us our first people to show that like, oh, okay, we need something. I would say, okay, principle number one of like when we were like things that we've learned is your product matters. That's what we learned right away is that our product wasn't the product that people wanted to use. It wasn't an easy sell, and it wasn't something that once we got
Hmm.
them on it, that it was intuitive or easy to get them to keep on using it or even want to tell friends about it. Um, so we went back to the drawing board, and I would say it's kind of fun. I would say we're pretty close to having a product that really sells. And even within the last week, we've actually just like this, like me saying this mesh is free, like that's a brand new change. It was one of the things that we just kept on hearing. One of the things I think with selling is sometimes we like think with selling, it's like, what do I tell the user? A lot of times for us, what we found is what does the user tell us? So on a twofold side, okay, what are they telling us of the things they like? Well, it's probably the exact same words that we should use to sell and tell people about it. We just like repeat things that they already have internalized. Because if they've internalized something that we've told, like it's probably more memorable and it's the reason why they downloaded. So we've started, internalizing the things and then telling people that. Secondly, is listening to users and saying, uh, this is the friction point of why it's been hard to sell. One of those things is like Mesh is free. Mesh had a hard paywall. At one point, it was free, and we exploded. We're like, okay, shoot, we have to pay for things, and so we've been just kind of
Right.
playing around with different business models. And what
Mhm.
we've come to just from feedback is that the general gist of getting on Mesh at first needs to be free. There's a lot of
Mhm.
leaps and bounds when you're doing social stuff, and putting your credit card information is just it's frictional.
Yeah.
And that's just unavoidable. And we've tried with making that friction, and it just slows down the growth, and you can't have too slow of growth with a social startup. We still have the paid stuff, and so that's an encouragement for us, is how do we get better at selling the paid stuff? How do we improve that offering? So those are that's the questions we're like totally on right now. Is okay, we have to make money, right? And offering
Mhm.
free stuff can be kind of a crack. Like that's like it is the temptation of every entrepreneur of how do I offer free stuff and subsidize people, but there's a trade-off. So we were looking at all these different things, and we recently added the free because that's a frictional thing. So listening to users was a huge part of us. Another thing that we learned in selling specifically was the importance of like a clear message. The website you've seen is like the seventh major iteration. We've gone on different
Mhm.
platforms. We ended up just like custom building our own website because it's just easier to, because message is both visual and also what's your copy, what are the words that are on the website. The other kind of like random tangent that I would say that kind of just like puts together all of what I've been saying with like the selling aspect with Mesh is when we look at our competition a lot, like I alluded to it earlier, but we have a few other people out there. They're competitors in a technical sense,
Mhm.
but I only think about them to learn from them and not to think about them because I'm scared of them. I think that's like a key part
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd love to work with them. I think that'd be really fun. None of them have reached out back to us, but like I think it would be great to learn from each other. I would like to be separate. I think we have things that we do differently, and they have things that they do differently. And some of them I'm impressed with what they've done. The one I'll point to is Time Left. So Time Left is based out of France. They're in 300 cities across the world. They have roughly, last I checked, like a month ago, I think like 150,000 people meeting every month. Um, Roughly like 1.5 to $2 million in revenue. Their model is they do an insane amount of ads through Meta and Google and everything like
Mhm.
that. I would ballpark guess $100,000 a month at least in ads. Um, and they just charge 20,000. Actually, maybe it's 100,000 a week. I don't know. Somewhere between a hundred
Mm.
thousand dollars a week in ads and 100,000 in month. So just like insane amount of ads, at least for us.
Yep.
Um, and they just charged like 15 to $20 per connection. Even when we were paywalled, it was only like $5 per connection. So they opted for expensive, but we're going to spend a lot to get people in, and obviously it's working. They've grown a lot, and everything. And that just, I don't know, it didn't sit well with us. I don't know if we just lacked the confidence in doing that, and it just wasn't our style. So we went for a mid-tier, like, okay, we're gonna do a little bit cheaper, and we were spending, I don't know how the math works out, but probably about $20 a day in ads.
Mhm.
So we'll say
Yep.
100 to $200 a week in ads. So
Yeah.
much, much, much smaller. And we're like, okay, that kind of works. We were able to get a decent amount of users, but there's a huge drop off, and we need a lot of people for this to work. So we're like, okay, we could kind of have a sunk cost or an opportunity cost equation in our heads. And instead of spending all that money in ads, we're still going to do money in ads. We're just going to use it being free as its own marketing. We're going to differentiate ourselves by being free. We have our own, little minute differences too in the platform too. But overall, we're just gonna go free. We're gonna try to offer our paid stuff, like our premium, because we're like a freemium model now. We'll try to make that better. So that will be the main selling point. We'll try to make our solid product really awesome, and that should convert in itself of like, wow, this is really amazing. I wonder what the premium offering is like. That's one of the things that we think about a lot is, okay, can we make this the free awesome, but then can we make the paid so awesome that, people talk about it? And then finally, with all that, it's that, again, that opportunity cost of, we're trying the strategy. I mean, we literally just started a week ago. I just finished up the kind of last little update things with this yesterday. So I just launched those to the App Store, and those are live now. And we're trying the strategy of, is it better for a social app like we are to be free for most users and have some kind of converting, and that does most of the marketing and makes the marketing just that much easier and less friction? Or does Time Left, and the other one is 222, and then there's another copycat, Kin Weekly. Is it better to just charge an insane amount for like what we're doing, and then just market the heck out of it with ads and just do a ton of paid ads? My inclination is I think that free is better. If we look at the market's different than it was, but if we look at other companies that, maybe Be Real, Meetup's now has a paywall, but other apps when they first started getting to a market size, it's probably best to be free. That's our hypothesis. We're testing it. We're kind of giving ourselves till December, January to see. But here's the question. We're at 8,000 users and roughly 1,000 monthly active users. So just like full transparency, we have 8,000 people signed up, but 70% of them haven't used the app ever.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge thing for us. Part of that's because we're growing, right? And it takes time and people are busy and everything. But as we're looking at ourselves, it's like, why have 70% of the app users not actually used it? Well, part of that maybe is the friction. Some of it's just like going out. That's a big sell. It's one of the things. We have like several different sells. We have to sell you to download the app, and like just use it and whatnot. It's a whole nother sell to be like, okay, you've seen the invite that we send you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go out and meet up with
Yep.
people. And then the even harder one is, okay, I clicked yep and I said, I think I can do this. Will I even show up? And so we have all these
Yeah.
little different cells. And this is just human nature. It's fun to work with. It's fun to try to be transparent with this of like, hey, we know this is scary. We also don't want to this is the balance too that we ask of transparency, but not at the sake of like the wrong brand. Like one of the things that we really
Mm-hmm.
focus on is we're not a loneliness app. Like I'm not for lonely people. Okay, if you're lonely, sure, you can use Mesh. But don't
Yeah.
use it because you're lonely. Use it because you want to socialize. Like we try to focus on the positive, and like we want you to get out there, have fun. It's fun and it's very human to want to socialize. Like that's a good thing. But I think when we be dour and sad and everything, that doesn't make the experience any better. It's just it makes it awkward for everyone. If you're like,
Yeah.
I'm lonely and so I'm downloading this, like, no, I just want to socialize. I want to be out there, try new coffee shops, explore my city. I mentioned this for you too. The cool thing about this is we found this is generational. We have 18-year-olds and we have 80-year-olds, and the whole
Yep.
gap in between, people meeting, connecting, and it's so humbling to see that. Just like, wow, people are using Mesh to meet new people all over the world, all over the country, and it's working. So just kind of to sum that up, it's been a long journey. It hasn't been easy. We've tried a bunch of different things. I just saw something yesterday. I sent it to Stuart and Isak. I really like this, that you'll find 1,001 different advices on how to sell, on how to get marketing. And there's a lot. I look at them as tools. No one tool, like you don't use a hammer to build a house. Use a hammer and a screwdriver and all these other different, and a drill to build a house. You have to have a bunch of different tools. The quote is this. So it's from one of the Revenue Cat guys. They're a big company that handles
Mm.
subscriptions and everything. And he says this, there's like all those different feedback and everything. Ultimately, what it comes down to when you want to grow an audience is listen to your customers, respond to their feedback, repeat. Just do that a bunch. And that's what we found is that when we're growing, when we're doing our best, it's because we listen to our customers and we respond to them too. So we actually we fix the issue when we say we fixed it, and we try to make that as short as possible. All the time we're like, wow, that took literally 2 minutes for you guys to fix that bug. Like how did, it's like, no, it's just
Yeah.
three of us and we just get the text. We have them text us directly.
Yep.
Our number just is on the app and they just text us. Because we want to fix things as soon as possible. We want to hear feedback. I have 10 texts that I'll after we're done with this call that I'll look at, I'll respond to, and just try to, I'll make mental notes of it too, so that we can get, my goal is to get less texts, or at least more texts. This is amazing. How can I support this? Because I hopefully am fixing issues and making things more clear without adding weight to the company, that they don't have to have as many support stuff, or they don't have to have this question, or it's not as unclear. So ultimately, what we've learned, and we're still learning, and I'm sure, next week I'll have another little insight on this, is can I just listen to the person in front of me, and will they have input or feedback of that I can legitimately interact with and try to implement.
That's great. I appreciate the candor and the detail, because you hit on a number of things that I just wanted to sum up. you first started with get the app right and the software right, and you finished with that as well, and including the quote, listen to the users, listen to them, because ultimately that kind of just gets back to the gentleman you quoted, solve a problem. And you've tried to software is a little different because it just constantly evolves, so it's never done, but that's another reason to listen. I think when you talk about your numbers and who's using and who isn't, it probably isn't the app. I don't know, but I would guess it probably works extremely well. It's more what you described, which I think is another interesting aspect of what you're doing with Mesh. It is going to take folks to get up and go out the door. And you wake up, you might not, do I really want to go meet some people? I haven't. Do I have the energy today? So those are the things that are going to stall, but that doesn't mean the app isn't going to work or people aren't going to ultimately use it someday. Your approach is great. There's a million business models, and we've seen a tons of them in the past 20 years on these types of things. Is it free and I get to a certain volume and then I turn on the pay? Do I, and the fact that you're just, you're evaluating it, you've got to run a business. Everyone does, but how do you tackle that? And that leaves lasting impression on your users. So you're trying to just, hey, how do I make this thing work? How do I get people to use it and get benefit out of it? The economics will come. It's easy to say that because there are costs in a business, but I think your approach is really sound. And if I'm a user, I'm thinking, hey, these guys have got it wired. They're looking out for me, trying to build something cool. I'll try it out. Sure, at some point, everyone's got to, run their business, and, hopefully that revenue will come over time. So I did want to ask one other question just on the growth, and then we can shift gears just a little bit. So you mentioned, I know on the website, I was taking a peek as you were talking, live in 7 different cities now, I think.
Yeah.
What's sort of the summary of how does that come about? Because I might download the app and use it from anywhere. That's the nice thing about the App Store, right? It could be anywhere, but we need to find other people. Are there other users? At what point do you kind of say, hey, we're live in a city? Is it you're targeting cities? Do they just naturally evolve? What's happening
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, it's a mixture, and that's the challenge. We look to Uber actually for a lot of inspiration with this because they had a similar like we need a critical threshold. So we hold a critical threshold between like 350 people to 500 people. Ideally, at
Gotcha.
least 500 people is super helpful. We do target cities. So like these first 7 cities have been somewhat specific, but we're kind of getting to the point where we have ideas of where cities would be nice to launch to next, but we kind of just let the market lead.
Yep.
When we want to launch a city, or like a city's getting close, we'll make a specific marketing push. So we'll put videos out on TikTok. TikTok's great because you can iterate just like you can in software, but with a message. So I could do the same 5 videos and just tweak different messaging. And you can use AI, or you can just use your
Yep.
brain, which is probably best to think, well, if I tweak it in this way, how will people respond? And then it will tell you where drop-offs, and it doesn't penalize for similar videos. So you can just do the same video until you get the perfect video. To be honest, I haven't used that to its full extent, but the little I've used it's been very valuable. I mean, we're to the point where when we do a talking head video kind of like this, if we do it right, if it seems genuine and authentic, and honestly, it's weird. When it's in a car, it does so much better, these kinds of videos.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because I think it's just
Huh.
comfortable and whatever, is what we
Yeah.
found. So I do a lot of my videos in the car now. You get 5 to 25,000 views just telling people, which is
Wow.
incredible. I don't need a big budget. Definitely the higher end budget and like providing a brand and image for what they're getting themselves into, super valuable for us. Also having our users, like we've had a few different users talk about us, that's huge. Like when we launched to Charlotte is one of our cities. Um, one of the We had 2 things that made that really super simple for us and actually very cheap to launch the city, because we've tried couple different strategies. One was just like, let's just do a bunch of ad money and launch it. We've wasted thousands of dollars on that. It's just not worth spending just straight ads on that. For us it's been ineffective, where we've made these fancy videos based on like,
Hmm.
we get a lot of footage of our meshes or like the groups meeting. People are very generous, so it's like actually most of the videos you see on our Instagram or whatever or website, those are our users. So it's just like, you want to
That's
see what
great.
it's going to look like. No, those are like legitimately just like the people that use mesh, they're regular people. And we put ad money behind a specific city, and it does okay. And we waste thousands of dollars. It kind of gets a base. It's nice to kind of grease the wheels. But what we found, 2 things that work really well for us. One is asking the question to people in that city or just in general, how do you meet people in insert city? So like Charlotte, we did, how do you meet people in Charlotte? We get a bunch of people that answer that on camera. And that just like, something like that is like, it's kind of a roundabout way to sell the app, but
Hmm.
we're providing value. Like that's another thing that's like it's
Yep.
intrinsic to what we're trying to sell. And it's very easy to fit in, and it's like natural to our brand to ask that question. And we can say, hey, like one of the reasons we're doing this is because we host these little coffee social hours. It's a fun way to meet people. It's free. We can say that now. So that's maybe it'll sell even better now. The other thing too that works really well is just getting people. I just like kind of inside. What I'll do is I'll go on TikTok, I'll use their search platform, and I'll just search how to meet people in insert city. And then I'll find the people make videos like this all the time. Or I'll search what do I usually search? Day in a life in St. Louis. And all these people have made videos about that. And they're usually people that like just love making videos. And I'll just reach out to them. I have a standard like cold reach out form that I just use. This is all in TikTok. Super free, super easy. Doesn't take that much time. And I'll say, hey, we're launching this city. We'd love for you to use the app. I'll pay for your coffee to use the app. They make a video, and
Yep.
it's raw, authentic. And I tell them, like, please, like, give me your honest feedback, because like if you make a video about how terrible it is, I want to know. I'd rather you text me that and then make the video about how we
Yeah.
fixed it, and
Right.
so it actually ended up being really great. But like, open. I want
Yeah.
mesh to be the best possible. Like I
Yeah.
will, me, Stuart, and Isak will stay up all night, and we have like to fix something, to make something better, because mesh can and will be the best. There's no
That's
reason
great.
that we can't. You know,
That's
and if
great.
we do that, selling just becomes so much easier.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love the commitment and you're scrapping. There's so many thoughts on how you guys are scrapping, which is common for, anyone starting any type of an app. But I'll try and sum up a bit as we kind of reach the end of our time here. I just wanted to summarize kind of where you are. It's the Mesh app that I personally am super interested in. It's worth checking out as you've described. You can get a free version of it, use it. And why would you do that? To go meet people. That's what's great about it. There's a lot of, productivity tools, make your life more interesting, easier way to buy things, cool stuff. I get it. I do all of it. But I just love the concept of use this and actually go meet some people and change your day a little bit, kind of get out from under some of the tech, using the tech to get there, but go old school and just have a cup of coffee and meet somebody in your neighborhood or in your area. And I think that's a socially positive impact approach, which I greatly appreciate. And I'm sure a bunch of people that are signing up appreciate. What do you see in the next 6 to 12 months for the app? Is it just kind of continue and grow and make it the best it can be, as you've described? Or, do business groups find this interesting, or envision once we're in 50 cities or all across the country, we could then build more of a platform? Any snippets there that you guys are thinking about? Or is it just like, hey, we're so busy just keeping the cities going, we just want to add more?
Yeah, we have a couple different things. Built into the platform is the growth functionality. So when you sign up, if your city's not active, you just get added straight to a wait list. And as soon as we hit that threshold, it automatically
Oh,
will start
cool.
sending out invites. So it's like we're ready and geared up to go to as
You're
many
ready.
cities as possible. We don't have like international cities loaded in, and we mainly have large cities, like so cities with more than like
Mhm.
150,000 populations loaded in. But it's like literally I could pull up my computer now and in 10 seconds add another city. So it's like
Gotcha.
super
Cool.
easy for us to add
Yep.
cities. So two things for us is adding more cities. We want to be as like widespread as possible. I want someone to be able to go on a business trip from Madison to go to San Francisco and say, yep, I can go meet people on Saturday. The other thing, this has been tough because the feedback we get the most is more times, more times, more times. And it's like, oh, shoot, I really want that. That just like, it at least
Mm.
triples our critical threshold that we need, because you don't just have a normal critical threshold. You need to have like enough where it can facilitate where people are being spread across multiple different times. So our next big thing is we are adding more times. Not exactly sure on the time frame for that. Probably between a month and 3 months, we'll add like some kind of evening activity. We're thinking, gotten a lot of positive feedback, so open to if you have anything contrary, similar, but um fun bars with pool. So go play some pool. If you don't know how to play pool, no worries, we'll have the rules and everything, but it's just like a
Yep.
low stakes fun activity to do. You don't have to drink. You're the bar is just a fun place to go. And if you want to have a drink, maybe two, you're meeting people for the first time, so it's probably best to stay kosher. But yeah, we just want people to have fun. We're looking to add more times, add more cities. And then the last thing that we're looking to do is just really like penetrate in these cities and just add more people. I want people just to have and feel like they have the opportunity to meet with people. Like everyone's welcome as long as you're like an adult. Like all adults are welcome. Like just sign up.
Yeah.
We'll pair you. You don't have to use it every week. You can use it once a year. We just want people to go out, have fun, socialize. But yeah, we're hopefully to add more venues, more kind of like interests and stuff like that as well.
Well, you don't have to convince me any further. I love what I've heard, as I've shared already. So I'm in, and I want to go get Mesh. Where do I go? What do I do? To the
Yeah,
app
so if you look
stores?
up mesh-local.com or you just search Mesh in your app store, it should come up. Or just Google Mesh Local. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok. We're working on getting out there. Stuff like this is super helpful. So really, again, we appreciate you having us on here. And if you go to the website, all our contact information's on there. You can email us, you can text us. That's like, or call us, whatever. We'll respond. We want to hear from you. Um, yeah, we're just trying to be normal people, you know?
I love it. I love that concept. I could hear it throughout this entire conversation, just the kind of desire to be open and help people be open and meet each other. It's really a cool effort. So that's mesh-local.com, and of course out on the app stores to download it and check it out. Michael Orosz-Fagen, thanks so much for joining today. As I've shared, I think it's a super cool app. I wish you the best of luck, and I'm sure it's going to just keep growing all over the country. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you
the
so
Boost
much.
Numbers podcast. Appreciate it. Thanks, Michael.